All right, hello and welcome back. Thank you for staying for our school continuous improvement outreach session. And again, this is a process that we go through on a yearly basis to evaluate our data from the previous years and to look at our goals for the upcoming year and to get that community outreach component. We want to make sure that you're informed, you're invested, you have your feedback as well, and you're a part of this process with us. All right, so today's agenda will be an introduction to the continuous improvement team. So of course, myself and our additional team leaders on our campus are Ms. Russell, Ms. Sarnecki, Mr. Savarese, Ms. Moreno, Ms. Lahr, and Ms. Duran. So this is the new format is a pilot of some changes that are taking place. So that's what we're taking place in now. And we're also providing feedback to the state of how this new process how it goes for us as well. And then we'll close and discuss what the next steps are after this meeting. So our meeting goals are to inform you of our SIP beta, to gather school partner feedback for the roadmap of incorporation. This plan has not been fully drafted yet. We've started working on putting in some of the components, but as far as those goals, as far as what feedback and the specifics of it, that comes after your feedback and your surveys take place. To continue our transparency between the process and the community. Like I said, it's usually something that takes place that the families aren't fully aware of. So we want you to be a part of this process as well. And to note project expectations for ongoing collaboration throughout the course of the academic year. An important part of this is the evaluation as the year goes and following up on it within the following school year. So the process, our goal is to meet the needs of all of our students and to ensure they grow not only academically, but also behaviorally and socially. In order to do so, we will develop this roadmap document, which directs our strategies, what interventions we need to put place on campus, and what resources we either have currently that are working well or what resources are still needed on our campus. And it takes place, the way it's designed now, it takes place over 3 acts.
All right, so the continuous improvement in 3 acts, there's Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. Currently, we are in Act 1, and inside of each act, there are multiple events, which you will see on the next slide. So Act 1 is really organizing the school continuous improvement team, understanding the current school landscape, what's going on in elementary, middle, and high school, and then developing the school's SPP roadmap for the year. So you'll notice that they use the term school performance plan still throughout the SIP plan as we start to transition away from the school performance plan into the continuous improvement plan. So it really makes the whole idea of the school performance plan really come alive as it's being spread out through the year and really monitored and involving a lot of different stakeholders in multiple areas. And then we will go into Act 2 late November with navigating our course, monitoring the roadmap goals and strategies, sharing progress updates to the school community and stakeholders, and celebrating what is working and making adjustments where it is not. So this is something that we do on a regular basis, but this is something that the state is also requiring us to do as well, which also keeps everybody accountable in different areas on campus. And then last but not least, Act 3, reviewing our journey. So evaluating the goals and strategies. This takes place later on in the year in second semester, and identifying key learnings from our journey, determining what we should do next and what we should continue doing, and then identifying areas of improvement for the next leg of our journey. So there's always room for improvement, and that's the whole point of the continuous improvement plan that the state has put into place. So this is just showing you a nice visual. I'm a visual person, and I think it's really important so that you can see the 3 acts in place. And then you can notice that there are events inside of those acts. So Act 1 has 5 events. That's where we are currently at, and really working our way to event 5 by November. And then as we transition from November all the way into February, March for Act 2, and then March through the summer, we're reviewing our journey. And this is something that is continued and updated every year.
All right, and your feedback. So we will review the data and understand the context of it. After we review it, we'll ask you to complete the survey and capture your thoughts. And that's where I also ask that you get a pen and a piece of paper, because I want you to be able to look at key trends you're seeing, questions you have, because it's quite a bit of data. So I want to make sure that you're getting some of your thoughts down as we move through it. All right, taking a look at our elementary proficiency, and this has been shared before, but I want to bring it, make sure that you're aware of this data right here. A very good data that we showed for our elementary ELA and math proficiency for last school year. 77.8% ELA, 69.6 in math. This breaks it down into achievement levels. So on the SBAC, 3 and 4 is proficient. And so this kind of shows you where the students performed in ELA and math, if they received a level 1, 2, 3, or 4. So you can note how many of our students, what I really took from this is how many of our students are not only proficient, but level 4. So that is really a huge takeaway from this slide, that they're not only performing, but performing really well. And if we look at our middle school proficiency, 68.2 in ELA, 42.8 in math, and we have shared that with you as well. That is last year's SBAC proficiency for middle school. And really, we are doing a lot of conversations and professional development on our campus for that math. Like I said, it's above the average, but for our expectations, that's really a target area of ours that we're focusing on. And then as well, taking a look at the achievement levels for ELA and math for middle school, whether those students performed 3 and 4 as proficient. So if they performed at a level 1, 2, 3, or 4. And it's also broken down. I'm sorry, I'll pause a little bit more on each of these just so you can take your notes as well. Should I go back to the previous ones that I paused on those enough? Do you guys think I'm good? Okay. I want to make sure, I apologize. I want to make sure I'm not rushing and that everybody's able to kind of look and absorb this data and think of some thoughts that they have and want to note. All right, so now we go into our, and on the survey, you will see specific questions related to connectedness. So this was a climate survey that took place last school year. So the data, it's very good data to reference. It did take place, during the pandemic. So we do kind of take that into account where there's some things where they might not have been having those connections or in person as much as in a typical year. But we definitely have some really good takeaways from this. So I'm going to kind of read them and I'm going to let you, I'm going to kind of refrain from pointing out things or noticing because I want authentic observations and takeaways from them. So I want to just give you a moment. I'll read what the topics were and I want to let you look at it, think about and looking at this. What questions would I have? What areas of recommendation would I see that I really see in this area? That should be an area of focus. I'm not seeing we're where we need to be there, or this is going well. Let's keep that up. I'm really proud of how we've done there. We need to make sure that we don't lose that focus there. So this, and also I want to note too, this was the entire Pinecrest for these. So this data right here, so the slides that are in orange were not for Sloan Canyon, they were for all of Pinecrest. So take that into account too. So it should be relatively reflective, we would assume, of ours, but we do have a little bit demographics and population on each of our campus. So we don't know, on these exactly how our students would ask, but they were definitely a part of this survey. And they answered questions such as teachers being available when they need to talk to them, noticing if they have trouble learning, do they know an adult outside of school that can help them? Do they have access to technology that they need to complete their schoolwork? And are the topics that they're studying interesting and challenging? So I'll give you a moment to review that. And this all will be shared. We'll be sending this out we're going to send out the recording and we can send out all this information to you. So we'll give you the survey at the end, but if you need more time, you can be working on it. You still can't access this information. Like I said, I want to give you time now, but you also will still be able to reference this information. All right, continuing on with our climate survey, and this targets the social and emotional learning component for our students. The questions that our students were asked really related to that social emotional component. Do they feel connected to their teachers? Do they feel like they belong? If they're absent, would someone notice? That's such a huge question. Does someone notice that if they're not there and care about them? So this is really that sense of being cared about and belonging. All right, and continuing with the connectedness data component, this was questions for our families. So all Pinecrest wide, questions to our families about the current climate of schools. Does your student feel comfortable asking teachers or other adults for help with their schoolwork? So this is from the parent perspective now. Do you feel like you're getting that feedback from your child that they are able to ask for help? Do they know who to talk to at the school if they need support or advice? Are they provided with the accommodations they need to do well in their classes? And from your perspective, are the topics that they're studying interesting and challenging? And this question of connectedness data related to engagement, questioned to families and caregivers. My student has friends from school who they talk to or connect with regularly. Do they participate in class discussions or activities when given the chance? So that's from the parent perspective. Do you feel like, did they feel like their child participates in class? Are you satisfied with the amount and quality of communication you receive from your school? And are you able to balance your students' school obligations with your own personal work and responsibilities? So please note any key takeaways, any areas of improvement that you think would be good feedback for us on the survey. And this as well was questions given to families and caregivers regarding social and emotional learning. Does your student feel like they have a strong sense of belonging? Does the school provide social and emotional care and mental health support to your students and to the families? Does the school communicate resources that are available for your family regarding social, emotional care and mental health support? And this is now the next set of questions was for Sloan Canyon students. So this is our data. This was a survey given to our elementary students right towards the end of last school year. And they were asked if they set learning goals. Do they meet and talk with an adult other than their teacher who helps them with their learning needs? Have they been exploring different careers at the elementary level? And are they given the opportunity to choose topics for their projects? Give you a little bit of time here because the bar graph makes it a little, you have to look at it a little, digest it a little more than a bar graph. So I'll give you a moment to look at that. And also note that the headers at the top too, never 1 to 2 times a year, 3 to 5 times a year, or 6 or more times a year, really related to the frequency of those things happening. Okay, and continuing with elementary student feedback. I missed one. My apologies. I missed one. Okay, and this is again elementary students as well. These questions were: do they feel like they work on real life problems? Do they give class presentations and share work with classmates? And do they work on assignments that take more than 1 day to complete? And again, it's the frequency across the top of how often are these things occurring and their experiences. In none of their classes, at least one, at least half, or in all of their classes. Okay, and again, elementary student input. I complete homework to review what I learned and I prepare for the next day's lesson. So is that homework relevant and preparing for what they're doing? Do they do the assignments that they're completing in class? Do they feel that they meet their personal learning needs? Do they use rubrics? Do they know what they're going to be assessed on when they complete an assignment? Do they work with other students in pairs or small groups? Do they use technology, and specifically using that technology to research, find information, communicate? So not just having a screen in front of them, but is it really utilized to its fullest capabilities? And do the students have opportunities to give specific feedback about their work? Or do they receive specific feedback from their teacher and classmates that help them better understand what they're learning? So how much feedback are they getting about their work? So again, that's in none of my classes, at least one, at least half, or in all. All right, and we move on to our secondary students and getting their feedback. So for secondary students, do they set academic goals for themselves and with the support of teachers? Do they utilize the counseling office? Have they began planning for college and career opportunities? And do they investigate topics for projects? Do they investigate and choose topics for their projects? Again, the frequency, never 1 or 2 times a year, 3 to 5 times a year, or 6 or more times per year. Secondary students were asked if they work on real life problems. Do they give class presentations and share work? And do they work on assignments that extend beyond one class period? And so how often are these things occurring across their classes? All right, continuing with connectedness data for secondary input. Do students feel that they complete meaningful homework that reviews what they learned in class and does it prepare them for the next day's lesson? Do they complete assignments that meet their personal learning needs? Do they use rubrics and scoring guides? Do they work with other students in pairs or small groups? Do they use those digital tools in a meaningful way to research, find information, communicate? And are they given specific feedback from their teachers? How often are these things occurring across their classes? All right, and this is again continuing secondary input. And these are related to how do they feel safe? Do they feel safe? Do they feel protected when they're at school? Do they have the materials and supplies that they need to complete their tasks? Do they complete challenging work? And do they get to actively participate in class discussions and activities? In none of my classes, at least one, at least half, or in all. Okay, and at the same time, we also gave our teachers a survey. This is connectedness data from our teachers at the end, right near the end of last school year. And it was an anonymous survey where we asked them to rate these items. Do they feel that they base decisions on their classroom and aligned with the strategic direction of the school? What we have communicated as administration and worked with our team to develop our strategic direction, so they feel like what they're actually doing in the classroom aligns with that. Are their lessons, do they have high expectations in their lessons? Are the lessons that they're preparing really pushing students for those high expectations? Are their actions in and out of the classroom aligned to the strategic direction? I'm sorry, I probably should have gone down. Do their lessons provide opportunities for students to be actively engaged? Are learning goals different for each student? Are they providing that differentiation for students? And do they use that student achievement data to modify and adjust materials? So are they using that data to drive instruction? As you're looking at this too, you can also think about what trends do you see as far as what the teachers feel they're delivering, and how does that compare to the student perception? How does it align with what the student and family perception is? All right, our next steps now. Thank you so much for diving into that data with us and getting a gauge of the overall feedback and what all of our stakeholders are feeling. So we're going to give you this link now to the survey. There's a link there and a QR code that you can scan. So we will be reviewing this today. The survey that we get. How long is the survey open for? Do we set a time?
We'll keep it open until Sunday at midnight.
Okay, so we'll keep it open until Sunday at midnight. That way next week we can start really developing the plan, diving into it, analyzing it. And then we will be sharing that roadmap as we go through this process. The key takeaways that we take from it and the goals that we're setting, we'll be working with our SIP team and sharing that out to you once it's finalized. And then along the way, as we reassess it and see how those goals are going, we'll be communicating that as well. Again, if you want to refer back to any of those, any of that data, we will be having it shared out so you can go back and look again. So, and I can't thank you enough. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to be involved, to give us your feedback. We value it so much, and we appreciate you being a part of this process with us. And if you have any questions or anything you want to communicate to us, please reach out.